You say you're low maintenance. You don't ask for much. You don't complain. You don't want to be a burden. But sometimes, late at night, you wonder why you feel unseen, why people assume you're fine, why your needs feel negotiable. And you tell yourself, this is just who I am. But is it? Or did you learn to disappear quietly? You're the easy one in the relationship. The friend who says, whatever works for you. The partner who adjusts. The employee who doesn't push back. You pride yourself on being independent. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't demand attention. You handle things on your own. At least, that's the story. But notice what happens underneath. You hesitate before expressing preference. You downplay disappointment. You swallow small resentments. When plans change last minute, you say it's okay, even when it's not. Over time, something subtle shifts. People stop checking in. They assume flexibility. They rely on your silence. And you start feeling replaceable. Not because they don't care, but because you trained them not to notice. Psychology calls this pattern self-silencing. It often overlaps with high agreeableness in personality theory. Highly agreeable people value harmony. They are cooperative, empathetic, accommodating. But when agreeableness is paired with fear of rejection, it turns into self-erasure. You keep the peace at the cost of being known. And eventually, the cost shows up somewhere. In quiet resentment, in emotional fatigue, in a strange loneliness that exists even when you're not alone. So the question becomes, why would your brain choose this strategy? You weren't born wanting to be invisible. This pattern usually forms early, in environments where expressing needs felt risky. Maybe caregivers were overwhelmed. Maybe conflict led to withdrawal. Maybe affection felt conditional. Your nervous system learned something simple. Less need equals more safety. In attachment theory, this resembles avoidant adaptation. When closeness feels unpredictable, the child minimizes signals of distress. They become easy, independent, low maintenance. Not because they don't have needs, but because expressing them didn't reliably bring comfort. Your brain is efficient. It encodes what works. If staying quiet preserved connection, that strategy becomes automatic. Not conscious, automatic. So now, as an adult, you feel discomfort when asking for reassurance. Your chest tightens when you consider saying, that hurt. Not because it's dramatic, but because your system still associates need with risk. You interpret your restraint as maturity, but sometimes it's just old wiring. And here's where it gets deeper. Being low maintenance doesn't only affect relationships, it shapes identity. You become the strong one, the stable one, the one who doesn't need help. Which means when you do need help, you don't know how to reach for it. And people don't know you're struggling. Because you've been convincing everyone, including yourself, that you're fine. But here's the reframe. This isn't weakness, it's adaptation. Your brain optimized for relational safety. In evolutionary terms, belonging equals survival. The social brain prioritizes connection over authenticity when the two seem in conflict. So you learned to maintain connection by minimizing disruption. That's intelligent. It just comes with a hidden cost. And the cost isn't loud. It's subtle. Chronic underexpression, emotional compression, gradual invisibility. To understand the cost fully, you have to understand how the brain regulates closeness. Think of your nervous system as a thermostat for connection. It constantly scans for signs of acceptance or rejection. This scanning happens in regions like the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, areas involved in social pain and threat detection. When your brain senses potential rejection, even subtle cues, it activates protective strategies. For some people, that means clinging. For you, it means reducing demand. Here's the mental model. Imagine a volume knob labeled need. When connection feels stable, the volume can be moderate. But if past experiences taught you that high volume leads to disconnection, your system keeps it low, almost muted. This reduces immediate relational threat, but it also reduces intimacy, because intimacy requires exposure. From a behavioral psychology perspective, your pattern has been reinforced. When you don't ask for much, people respond positively. They describe you as easygoing, low drama, independent. That social reward strengthens the behavior. Reinforcement loop complete. But here's what the loop doesn't show you. Suppressed needs don't disappear. They accumulate. And chronic emotional suppression activates stress pathways. Research in effective neuroscience shows that inhibiting emotional expression increases physiological stress responses, elevated cortisol, increased sympathetic activation. So even when you look calm, your body may not be. That unexplained fatigue? It might not be workload. It might be self-containment, holding yourself in, all the time. So what do you do if your identity is built around not needing? You don't flip a switch. You recalibrate gradually. Here's how. First principle. Practice micro-expression. What to do? Start expressing low-stakes preferences. Choose the restaurant. Say which movie you actually want to watch. Admit when you're tired instead of saying, "I'm fine." Why it works. Exposure therapy principles apply here. Gradual exposure to feared behaviors reduces anxiety response over time. Each safe expression updates your brain's prediction model. Need does not equal abandonment. Real-life example. A friend asks where to eat. Instead of "anything's fine," you say, "I'd actually prefer somewhere quiet tonight." Small, but neurologically significant. Second principle. Track resentment as data. What to do? When you feel irritation, don't dismiss it. Write it down. Ask, what need wasn't expressed? Why it works. Emotion is a signal. According to cognitive appraisal theory, emotions arise from perceived goal blockage. Resentment often signals unspoken expectations. Identifying the blocked need re-engages prefrontal processing instead of pure emotional suppression. Real-life example. You feel annoyed when a colleague adds work last minute. Instead of swallowing it, you note, "I need clearer boundaries around deadlines." Now, the feeling becomes information, not shame. Third principle. Separate worth from utility. What to do? Notice when you feel valued only for being helpful. Experiment with being present without performing usefulness. Why it works. Self-determination theory shows that humans need autonomy and relatedness, not just competence. If your worth is tied solely to competence or low demand, your nervous system never relaxes into unconditional belonging. Real-life example. You meet a friend and resist the urge to solve their problems. You simply listen and let yourself take up space too. Fourth principle. Schedule honest conversations. What to do? Pick one safe relationship. Share one moderate need clearly and calmly. Why it works. Corrective emotional experiences reshape attachment patterns. When vulnerability is met with acceptance,
the brain updates old relational templates. Neuroplasticity requires repetition. One conversation won't rewire everything, but it begins the shift. Real-life example. You tell your partner, "When plans change suddenly, I feel unsettled. Could we communicate earlier?" Direct, not dramatic. Real. Integration is simpler than it sounds. You are not low maintenance. You are highly adaptive. But adaptation is context-specific. The same strategy that kept you safe may now keep you unseen. So remember this mental model. Connection is not preserved by shrinking. It is strengthened by calibrated visibility. Not overwhelming disclosure, not emotional flooding, just calibrated visibility.